mean, look at all of the years for you. I mean, how many years have you been doing these interviews, for example?
Forever. Oh, well, here's what happened. Okay, let me go back into that camp. Yeah. So I started right. I got sick. I got ground zero disease.
Really?
The 9/11. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I have lung fibrosis in my lungs. So that's why when you see these interviews, I cough a lot. I have a chronic dry cough. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that go on, but the quality of your life. So at that time I was very sick, so I couldn't move that much. So I just started writing and typing stuff on the internet. So lo and behold, some people had some traction. So I wrote about what I liked. So I opened up a blog, and it was a written word. It was all written. So I'm writing this stuff, and I'm writing about these subjects. So one of them was, the first one I wrote about was Dan Pole. Okay?
Wow.
Dan Pole was float loading. He had a real short bag. He just floated like a whipped it.
Like this.
Actually, Lucas Glover kind of had the same thing. So then guy answers, starts commenting, and it's Carl Welty. Carl Welty's reading this stuff, and he's eating it up because
he's one of Jim's best friends. Yeah.
He was enjoying what I was writing about. So then Carl Welty would post a video on his website, on his YouTube site, and I would embed it on my blog, and whoever pressed to watch it would go back to Carl Welty's YouTube. And we did that I wrote an article on Charlie Owens.
Charlie Sifford?
No, Charlie Owens.
Charlie Owens. He played cross-handed. Yeah.
Okay. So all right. Yeah. So now, okay. So Charlie Owens. I write this article about Charlie Owens, how he's all banged up in the New York VA hospital, and he grabs a magazine. And he sees that how much money Nicklaus made. He said, "Man, I'll be happy with 10% of that." So he puts the magazine down. As soon as he gets out of bed, he rolls down to Marine Park, works on his game, goes on a regular tour. He invents the long putter because he can't bend over because of all his injuries.
Yeah,
he was like I think he was a parachutist or something. And then Carl Welty had posted up a video of Charlie Owens, so he had Owens recorded. So but Carl Welty never sent me anything. I did one piece with Tommy Bolt. I wrote a story about how I went to Bethpage Red. I don't know if you've ever seen. I'm from that. That's where I played my golf. Most of my golf on the black. But the red, the first hole on the red is got to be the hardest hole, black included, in that whole complex. So I went down there, and I go down at the 200 marker, and here's Tommy Bolt. He must have been in his 70s, and he's just carving this forward from the 200-yard marker because the first hole, the red goes down, then it goes up into an elevated green. So you're like in a valley, and it's like 460 yards normally into the wind. It's a brutal hole. It's a beautiful hole, but it's brutal. So he's down there at the base in these forwards and cussing like a sailor. I stood there and watched him. So I wrote about that, and then he puts up a video of Tommy Bolt 16 at Riviera. So I borrowed that, right? But the guy's like, well, Carl Welty never sent me any material. He sent me one tape, and listen to this. So we get into a debate about, actually it was me and Greg. Greg says, how's this guy, we both believe, said, how can Charlie Owens generate any power playing cross-handed, right? So I said, Carl, how's this guy generating any power playing cross? He sends me a video of his son playing at Washington, and the kid's hitting at 300 yards, 330, Craig Welty. He actually wrote me and says, was that you? You play cross-handed? I says, yeah. So Carl Schiller said, that's the only video I've ever received from Carl Welty, was his son playing cross-handed, because we were arguing about trying to generate power with a cross-handed swing. And he said his son's hitting at 3 and change at Washington, and here's the video. He was right.
There's you know who else did that was Dick McAuliffe. Remember Dick McAuliffe he played baseball for the Detroit Tigers. He played cross-handed. He was a good golfer. He was a scratch golfer, and it was very controversial. He played Mac does these demos. I'll show you like a 5-minute clip of Mac hitting it cross-handed, and it's pretty cool to watch Mac do it. But Dick McAuliffe was one of the ones, then Charlie Owens. But you mentioned Carl Welty. His son he's good friends with Jim as well. His son may have a lot of those videos you could probably get. His son's
no, because the thing is that I put a Hogan video up there that I know is mine, and I was asked to give Welty credit. I said, well, I don't have any Welty videos. In fact, so here's how it is. So Welty, right now I have the email. Carl asked me if I had any footage of Hogan wearing a white hat from the 40s because Jim was going to write a book about it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, all right, I'll send you. So I sent them a tape that only a couple of other guys have it. And the only other person from that camp who had ever seen that tape was Derek Yu, the putting coach.
Oh, Derek Yu, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to butcher his last name.
Yeah.
He's Japanese. Yeah, Derek. He teaches Xander. And he wrote me. He said, "Who's the other guy?" He says, he mentioned the other person that has that tape. And I said, "Yeah, he has it. Mine had music on it. How did mine get music? I have no idea. I don't ask questions." But I sent that tape to Carl. Then somebody else from that group says, "Hey, you got any more? Whatever I had, I sent to Carl. Go talk to Carl. Have Carl give you whatever I sent them." Simple as that. But that became like it got me angry because why would there's only I asked Carl for one tape, one swing. Okay, I asked Carl because I know McLean worked with Zaringer, George Zaringer.
George Zaringer was one of his.
He's from the Met second. He's from the Met here from MGA. He's a legend
player.
up here.
A legend, yeah.
A legend there. Never won the U.S. Amateur, but we used to watch his. He had a great golf swing. That was the only time I've ever asked Carl for a tape was that guy, George Zaringer. Okay. I have a pretty big collection.
Yeah, he was
see it as it gets distributed out there. I mean, before I die, it'll all be on Instagram or somewhere else. I'm not taking anything. Whatever. But his style was he would record them. He trained. See, if you look on my thing, I interviewed Carl. He was one of my first guys. No, he had a team of people that he would have record players. What I have is home video. Most of it is grainy, and I have to try to regenerate it, get all the all the grainy stuff, and so it's like home. Some of them were recorded, so it's playing on TV on some screen. Some guy's recording it with another camera, and that way they can get it to slow down. They can put it in slow mo. Some of it is like really funky stuff, and I haven't put it all up because I'm trying to figure out how to make it legit.
How we did that back then with the the pens on the TV screens. I remember teaching with Mike Bender, and Mike would teach his lessons on this black and white screen, drawing lines with a ruler. It was crazy what we used to do. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Carl was very heavily into videotaping just about everybody. And every tour player, tons of. Probably not as much as you, but he had a lot. I know he had a lot.
He had more than me because he had access to tour players, and he was actually recording the tour players. I never recorded a tour. I've recorded a couple of swings and maybe 2 or 3 guys that I've been, but he recorded it for teaching purposes, for for learning purposes. I'm just acquiring a bunch of home footage from Grandpa Joe's attic. Hey, what's this? That kind of stuff. That's all. But I did collect a lot of it. And
I can't let it go. I have God, I must have about I don't know, 15. I got thousands of hours. Let's put it that way. I won't know how many of Matt teaching, of the golf machine, of senior tour players, of Jim teaching. And I mean, I just it's precious to me. I mean, that stuff is I do watch it. Watching these guys.
At the end of the day, I feel like I'm hoarding. What am I going to do? Am I taking this with me? So I start releasing it, and little by little, wow, what that there's people. Even though I've seen people put things up that surprised me, You saw that video of your uncle, right?
Yeah. Oh man,
that was pretty well filmed because that was done by the USGA in the '57 Open, and that's part of their highlight video. And that came from another guy who's got me and Carl beat. Called the Golf Librarian.
Wow.
Go to his site. He's got like Super 8, 16, reel-to-reels, tons. Really? He's actually got, I have a video of Tommy Bolt and Ben Hogan doing a clinic. Mine is all scratchy and all screwed up. Okay, he's got the driver that Ben Hogan gave Tommy Bolt in the parking lot of that exhibition.
Wow.
And so there's people out there that, there's people that were members of Shady Oaks. Like I have video of Hogan hitting balls at Shady Oaks. So I interviewed Jody Vasquez, and there's one where he's hitting into the caddy. And you can see the caddy. So I'm going to take that clip, send it to Jody and say, is that you? So but it's going to go out there because I was talking to Brady Riggs. You know Brady Riggs?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Good,
Brady told
good
me the same
instructor.
thing. He says,
Good
yeah,
instructor. Yeah,
he's a great guy too. Red
yeah.
Goat. Yeah. So he says,
Absolutely.
I got tons and tons of videos, and I said, yeah, Brady. At the end of the day, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's going to be like the videos that I have that wound up in somebody's attic. Nobody had ever seen. Their grandchildren find them. Hey, what's this? You know, you go to a flea market. You know, what do they call that? A garage sale or something
Garage
like that.
sale or something like that.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, and you'll see all this tons of stuff. What
yeah.
good is it? Let everybody see it. Let everybody have it. I mean, that Mac
Well,
stuff kind of like that's like a different scenario. But I mean, like tourist swings that like Hogan's and those guys.
my
It's,
God, it's so
there's a
cool. I
lot
mean,
of that.
you mentioned Tommy Bolt, and yeah, I got a video. I'll send it to you. But yeah, I was caddying for my uncle Ted. We're in Amelia Island, and it's a practice round. And my uncle's getting older at this time, and he's Parkinson's is getting a little bit worse. And but he's playing. He's playing in the super senior division. So we got Tommy Bolt on the green. We got Sam. We got Doug and Jerry. Oh, no, Jerry passed away at that time. We got Doug still alive. We have Don January. It's up in Amelia Island. Up for me, it's up Amelia Island here in Florida. And so Tommy Bolt's by himself, and all of a sudden he goes, you know, because I was around these guys so much, you know, he knew me as, you know, my uncle Ted's nephew, and he said, Ted boy, come on over here, Ted boy. And I go, what are you doing over here? What are you videotaping? I was videotaping my uncle because he was putting a little, you know, he had some trouble with his wrists, and you know, his condition was getting worse, and he wanted me to watch. So I'm videotaping my uncle before the tournament, and he goes, Teddy Boy was one of the best putters. He's got a stimudent, you know, in his teeth. All those guys had their stimudents, right? Ted Boy was one of the best putters. He was one of the best ball strikers. I mean, and he goes, "Who do you like right now? What do you think about this kid, Tiger Woods?" You know, I said, you know, Mr. Bold, I think he's going to be a generational. He's going to change the game. You know, he goes, bullshit. You know, this is 1990. This is 1999, right? And he goes, bullshit. He goes, I seen that boy. He goes, I've seen that boy. He goes, have you seen how his driver? He hits all over the place. He can't play. He can't play in the U.S. Open like that. He cannot get it out of the rough the way he drives it. No, there's no way. Now fast forward, you know, and I'm laughing, and I used to love Tommy Bolt. You know, his whole personality and his swing was, you know, it's one of the best swings in the game. But yeah, I remember that conversation. I had the camera on, and he's saying that boy is not going to win a U.S. Open, and look where we are right now in the history of the game. It's
Yeah,
remarkable how good Tiger is, you know, or has been.
that's what Australian legend Norm Van Eyde, I think his name is. He's
Uh huh.
blind, and they asked because he was working with Basley and Batley and Smith. I mean Adam Scott. He said this guy's like, you know, why is this guy? He really went off on Tiger Woods, and you know that's all. That's like all you're doing is fueling the fire. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
his Tiger's reaction to that is, where are these two? Where's Batley? Where's Scott? Where can I
Yeah.
find him? You know.
That's
Yeah.
his rating because he really doesn't. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, he
Yeah.
doesn't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but it's funny because you know, I mean, those guys had such strong opinions, and they came from World War II, and they couldn't. I don't think they could really see. I think they could see a little bit what was coming, but I don't think they could see the impact that Tiger was
That's
going to have on the game at that point. You know,
that's
because
just a different. Yeah.
it was a
Different
wonderful
generation.
time with those guys. Oh, I mean, the stories and how the characters. I mean, they were a million times more interesting than the players today,
Yeah.
and great guys. They were veterans. I mean, they sacrificed their lives for us,
Hmm.
and but they at that time, like 1999, when Tiger came in, they didn't see what was coming because it did. The game has changed fast and furious and for the better too. You know, I do miss the character and the old school though, because I think that's really how the game is still played. You know,
I think it's lost its soul. I think it's
it
I think
has
it
lost its soul.
has to do with the purses being high, right? So when you were, I was reading this book by Gardner Dickinson. Oh, he was like, that's all he talked about, this all exempt tour, and then after they're off the tour, it becomes this all exempt tour. You know, they put in all this work and have to Monday qualify and have to, you know, become Monday rabbits and try to get to the, you know. And then he's like, that drove him crazy. It was
Oh yeah,
driving him crazy, yeah. So it's just, but you know, it's a sign of the times. That was a different generation of people.
yes,
Um, I'm grateful that
Me too. Yeah.
there were people like that were willing to just, suck it
Mhm.
up and come back and, suffer whatever they had to suffer. You'd never know it. And
But
today is
it's
not
really,
that. That's not
it's
the. It's
people
not
like
the.
you though, Ralph. It's
Mhm.
people like you though that are really bringing back the old school history. And I mean, I just absolutely I think that your interviews are fantastic. Yeah, I mean, Martin Chuck is a friend of mine. Martin and I,
Good guy. Martin's a good guy.
we're not we're not best friends because we don't live and talk that much, but he's a great guy and we respect each other a ton. What he does, good guy. He's got a great way to teach, great way of teaching, and we both were. It's so funny. I remember we were
Mhm.
both interviewing for the same job at one point out in Arizona, this club in Mirabel, and we both were. And he became, and of course, I was kind of doing. Uh, my thing from David Ledbetter. I just left David, and I was interviewing for a job, and I ended up getting a winter job there, Mirabel. So I ended up getting the job. Martin didn't get the job, but Martin went on to, do some just crazy, crazy great things with training aids, and I was so happy for him. And I
Martin.
think we both interviewed at the same time for the Baltus role job. That was open. I
Wow.
tried to get that. Yeah, it was. So I mean, Martin and I, we're in the same kind of circles, if you will.
Universe. Yeah.
Yeah, and Martin's kind of old school too. I mean, he's got a lot of old school, especially with his upbringing. He learned a lot from what's his name,
He
with the
has a great
glasses.
lineage. He has a great lineage. He came
Yeah,
from
we
Knudsen.
both different paths, but we both had that kind of
Yeah,
historical
he
lineage.
comes from. Yeah, he comes from Knudsen
George
to
Newsom.
to the golfing machine to
Yeah.
and one of the things about Martin is that Martin and I go back. Martin
Hmm.
was
He's a good guy.
even when I reached out to him, I said, Martin, he says, yeah, I got your email, and that was when he was in this club in Portland.
Yes.
He had sent me a tour striker, and I'm like, yeah, cool, let's do an interview. So when we hook up again, Martin goes, you know what, man? He says, what? I want to thank you for having me. I said, why? He says, you were the first guy that gave me a shot. I was a nobody from nowhere. What are you talking about? It wasn't that big a deal.
Uh-huh.
I didn't think it was that big a deal, but Martin made me feel like it was a big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was another point in my life where something like that. I was at the PGA show in '98. That year, I was with. I met Valerie Hogan just because Callaway had bought Spalding, that owned the Hogan Company, and Ben
Hmm.
Hogan had just passed away. I'm in the cafeteria, and I looked to my right. Hey, that's Byron Nelson. So I
Wow.
walked up. I had the cojones to walk up to him. I beeline right to him. Say, "Hi, Mr. Nelson. How are you?" "Oh, Ralph, how are you? Why don't you sit down?" I said, "Can you sit down? You sure?" So I sat down, and he was so selfless in a way that he didn't want to. He just wanted to know about me. He wanted me to talk. He wanted to hear about me. Like, what do you
Yes.
do? What are you doing? And there's nothing about, what I mean, like that type of humility you don't see anymore. And
You,
that moved me. So those types of things that, that human interaction is cool.
You really don't. I mean, you really don't. And Byron Nelson was kind of known for that. The only there's a lot of the old school guys. I don't know if you ever. I remember the name Ken Blanchard, Dr. Ken Blanchard, the 1 Minute Manager. He wrote the initial book was the 1 Minute Managers, written in 70 different languages. You probably have it up there, and it's probably up there someplace, right? Ken was not only just a student of mine, but he was him and his son Scott were students of mine, but they were he's a mentor too, and he's a great human being. He has a terrific company in California that does management consulting and management models, such as a model called situational leadership. But anyway, one of the great things about Ken, he's a big golfer, and he had a thing called the Golfing University out in San Diego,
Now you got me
and
going crazy looking for that damn book.
you're gonna
But go
look
ahead.
you're gonna look for it now, right?
Man, 5 minutes ago, he might have been looking at me right in the face. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, Ken, if you ever read any of his stuff or listen to it, he's very close to Tony Robbins, Stephen Covey. I mean, I used to work a little bit with Stephen Covey, and I actually took a lot of Ken's trainings and taught some of his seminars. And one of the things about that was really a big part of those trainings was the element in terms of management was the element of humility, like you talked about, and Ken he's very famous, and he would sit down and just all he wanted to do was know about you. I mean, and it's very rare that you find these human beings, and then even to this day, he's got all these things, tons of things going on at once. Him and his wife Margie just are the busiest in their 80s now. According to their son Scott, they tell me they're just busier than ever. Got the crickets in the background here. You can probably hear them. And the wisdom that they want to kind of share with everybody is nonstop. All they care about is, what do you do? What is it that you want to? What kind of gifts do you want to offer the world? It's this selfless, because a lot of Ken's stuff is based on this servant leadership stuff. So that's kind of that was the belief system that you and I kind of grew up with in golf. Of course, I bring other references, but in golf, that was everybody was trying to learn from each other, but we had a very selfless way of doing it. Whereas nowadays, I mean, it's a lot different, unfortunately. But it's like you said, it lost its soul a little bit, I think.
Yeah. So if you had anything bad, if you didn't have anything good to say, you wouldn't say anything, right?
No,
So
no,
anyway, it's changed.
yeah.
It's changed, and
Everything's changed.
I don't
I
know.
mean,
But let's keep forward. Now we are where you went to Brazil.
went to Brazil, and then
Okay,
we
but hold
opened
on
up.
now. Nicklaus, and it's a Nicklaus Academy in Brazil, correct?
Correct.
Now
Correct.
Gil Hans designed the golf course. Why didn't Nicklaus design it?
No, Gil Hans designed the Olympic course in Rio de Janeiro.
Right.
And that was a tough one because it was up to Jack was one of the five, but they pulled out. He pulled out, and they had. I'm trying to remember because I remember the whole thing. We were trying to part of the negotiation. When I say we, I was just part of the conversations down there with the Olympic Committee. But anyway, long story short was we Jack's company, his design company, were to design our academy and the courses, 2 courses in Sao Paulo. Yeah, Jack pulled out of the running for the Olympic thing because they were looking for somebody who was environmentally, kind of conscious, and that was their whole thing. And Gil kind of fit the bill with that. He was known for that. He'd
Yeah, but
take land.
that's not. I've been to Rio. Okay, so
Yeah.
the rowing event, right? They tested the water.
I know. There's
So
needles and syringes, and it was disgusting.
You would have
No,
felt
no,
that
no.
you would come out glowing. I mean, come on.
No. It's no. I'm telling you, no, Ralph. It was, but Gil was. He was hired by because it's it's the government of Brazil now. Okay, he was hired to have a more of a climate conscious. He would not move too much earth and all that. But yeah, I lived in Brazil, like you just said. Yeah, the water there where they were doing the swimming, not just the
Yeah,
swimming, but the rowing. There were needles, syringes, garbage. I mean, it was
it was
awful.
pretty bad.
Unfortunately,
It
as
was
much as
pretty
I love
bad.
Brazil, it's very bad. You
They
would be
almost canceled
glowing.
the event because of it. So I know. And Gil Hans is probably the premier architect of our time right now. I mean, I'm not trying to because Nicholas has done some really good work. Nicholas has
Hmm.
done in Dominican Republic. He did Punta Espada, Cap Cana.
Hmm.
That's a beautiful. I mean, that's number one in all of Latin America, including South America, including Brazil. It's
Hmm.
beautiful. So he's got it together. But Gil Hans has done some really good stuff too. So
Absolutely.
either one of the two would have been great. And just curious why, if Nicholas was already there, why didn't he just?
Yeah, it was tough for us to get. It was tough. Like Bob Cupp, who was the main designer for Jack for many years. We tried to get Bob Cupp to come to Brazil. You're familiar with the name Bob Cupp? His designs with Jack were fantastic. He redesigned a lot of Oak Hills stuff, and Cupp was he's a premier designer. When we down in Sao Paulo, some of the land that we had was again the vegetation was very jungle like in Sao Paulo, at least the area that we were in, and so it's very hard to move earth, and everything takes a long time in Brazil, like we talked about.
The permits.
So, oh, it's no, I got story upon story about how long things take. I mean,
I'm surprised they were able to hit that deadline. At that time you had the Odebrecht scandal rocking all of Latin America.
hmm
Odebrecht is that's a big design build company that
yes.
was bribing everybody. Well, anyway, that's so I can get sidetracked like anybody
No, no,
else.
no. This is
These
well,
topics are like
we
right up
got good energy because we got so
right,
many things in common here.
right up my alley. But
Yeah.
so you finished Brazil.
Finished.
You meet your wife in Brazil, and this get married, and is that
My contract ended in Brazil, and so I was going to try to stay. I could have stayed, and then my mom was having some medical issues. She had to have 2 knees replaced, so I decided to come back and help her out. And then we actually Jack. I had an opportunity to open up an academy here in Orlando, and so I found a place here in Orlando, and we opened up the Nicklaus Academy here. So we started that way, and it lasted about a year and a half. We hired some instructors, but it was for some reason it was just taking a long time to get it off the ground. So we decided to unfortunately close it, and then I just continued just generating my brand and my business, and I've been doing stuff. So I had my partner. I have a partner on the biomechanics end, a guy named Chris Welch, Welchy Technologies or Xenolink, and Chris is a fabulous guy. I've known him for 25 years, and so Chris and I at that time, I would bring him into Orlando, and he would do biomechanics trainings. He actually is the biomechanist for JJ Spawn, and he
Okay.
had a lot to do with really helping the turnaround for JJ Spawn, along with Adam Schreiber. But the biomechanics side was Chris Welch, and he's up in the Ithaca area. So
Here in New
he's
York?
yep, in New York, and he is fantastic. The guy is one of the smartest guys in biomechanics. He did now you'd be interested in this. They did a study for the PGA Tour back in 1990, and I'm trying to remember the PGA Tour sanctioned it or requested. They paid. Chris was working with. I'm trying to remember the name of the company. Chris will correct me on this, but the was paid to do the research on the PGA Tour of all the swings on tour. So he got all the sequencing, he got all the data that he needed to get in the early years, 1990 now, on the PGA Tour players during those years, and it was remarkable when you see the similarities between those guys and today. Nothing's really changed, outside of the equipment has helped that and some of the training. But Chris had a big background in training golfers, and one of his big clients was Jason Zubek. He's got yeah, that guy just, he was a monster, with 6-time long drive champion. That was Chris's big client. And Chris now works with about 11 guys on tour right now on biomechanics. So Chris and I do programs down here still to this day. We do programs on, I'll do my golf stuff and he'll do the biomechanics part. And so I developed my brand here in Orlando, and I was real lucky. I'm at a place called Grand Vista, which is right here in Orlando. It's a Marriott facility, and it's right near SeaWorld. So that's the old Nick Faldo Institute.
That's the Faldo Academy.
That's right. That's right.
Nine-hole golf course.
And if you look at any of my videos, I
I didn't know that.
Look up Nick Faldo on YouTube, and if you look Nick Faldo talking about the golf swing on YouTube, like older, just a little older than himself right now, it'll go back to 10, 15 years ago, and where you see that tee, that's where I teach every day. I teach on his tee, and
okay.
So all of them that we have it's a great facility, great.
I remember.
Grand Vista is a fan. You're probably familiar with it.
I'll tell you why. So I would go down to Orlando during that time of the PGA show and sign up for the mini tour events as an amateur.
Wow.
And so I would be at the short game area.
Yeah.
Watching these guys, and I'm like, wow, man. I was amazed at the creativity, the control. I mean, I wasn't good enough to compete with those guys. Yeah, I might have been, at that time, maybe a 3 or 4 handicap, maybe. But I wanted to play, and I figured that would be the best way to get better, even if I finish last. I'm not making a living off it.
And it's a lot of humility. You have a lot of humility.
I know better than that. It goes big, but not that big. But it was the opportunity to watch. Like, okay, you mentioned the Westchester Classic. I would go up to see the Westchester Classic every year. One, because back then the European players were not exempt. You get like a guy like Seve, they would get like 3 or 4 tournaments a year they could play, unless they committed full time to the PGA Tour, and they wouldn't do it because they had to support their own tour. Now it's different. You understand? So I would go there. That would be the only time I could see Nick Faldo, Longer, and Seve. I would go and sit in the bleachers, which was the 10th hole, and then they have the driving range over here. And the 10th hole was a par 3, which I think the normal course, the 10th hole was the first hole. But I guess they didn't want to start the tournament on a par 3 or whatever. But I would just sit there and watch on the driving range. You try to follow a tour event, you're going to miss 95% of what's going on. You're going to have to catch it later on replay. Meanwhile, I can see them hit balls and learn.
The best place, the driving range is where you need to be. It is an addiction, at a tour event.
I would recommend anybody, that if anybody who's trying to learn and become, that's probably the
Yeah.
best place to go is watch a tour pro.
Yeah, and
Hit a
they go and
golf ball.
follow these guys on the golf course to watch them play, and it's great and everything. But you're going to watch a few swings. You may say, for a couple hours, and that's about it. But the drive range, you can see these guys. I mean, just
Nonstop.
see their habits. Yeah.
Yeah, and then not only that, you follow them for one. You start following them, you may get by the time you get to the next hole, if you're not fast enough, you're gonna be back 3 layers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you may not see anything. Anyway.
Yeah.
But go ahead. But by the way, that's a great golf course. Westchester Country Club.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good. It's a good. There was a guy named Richard Metz who taught here in New York.
Dick Metz,
And, yeah, Dick Metz. He had a studio at Midtown, and he had like some of the biggest clients, and he had an apartment at the hotel at Westchester Country Club. So that's how.
We did it.
Yeah.
We did a Dave Pels. I did a Dave Pels program there, and it was a 1-day program. We could only get in there for 3 days. So it was during the centennial years, but for some reason we got invited to do it there, and I don't know how that was possible because it was a lot of red tape. They just didn't want us there, but we did. It was a private group, if I remember. And all I remember was we were doing bunkers. I'm trying to remember where the shore camp area is. There's a bunker over there. But the bunker, if I remember right, or it was a pitch shot. I'm pretty sure it was a bunker. But the bunker, if you hit out past and you hit it over, out of the bunker over the green, you're going kind of towards the parking lot there. So one of the funny things, we were doing a school, and I'm trying to remember where this thing is positioned because you could probably correct me where it's positioned, but it had to be the bunker. But anyway, long story short, I'm doing a little lesson. It's a group of 3 guys, and we're talking about ball position. And the guy, he's maybe about 45 years old, and he takes it back, his weight's back as on his back foot. He releases the leading edge a little too soon and just sculls it. And I'm like, crap. And in this parking lot, I mean, there's these years, this is late 90s, there's beautiful cars, expensive cars. That particular day, there was a ton of them. I mean, there was limos. And it was weird because there was a lot of black limos that were there, black, and there were white limos, and it was like a gathering. Well, the guy sculls it into the parking lot. We hear a bang, breaks a window, and we hear one of the guys in the golf shop says, that the New York Mafia is here today at the club. And we're doing a Pels school. This guy just broke one of those windows,
That's BS.
Oh my God.
You couldn't.
We didn't know what to do. I mean, because congestion is there.
Listen,
they could find,
that wouldn't happen. That guy's bullshit. Mafia. Westchester Country Club is like Mayflower people. Okay?
Yeah. But it's funny because
I do have a couple of friends that do have a club called Due Process. That's it's a good golf. It's a good golf club. And the other thing, that the McLean book that I wanted Mike Lipinski to have Jim sign.
Yeah.
Okay, when I get back to New York, I open up my golf bag, pull the book out, and lo and behold, Mike Lipinski signs the book. I'm like, well,
he signed it.
He signed it himself. I'm like, all right, thanks.
That would be something that Mike would do. He's a good New York dude too. He's a good New York dude.
Yeah, he's interesting. Yeah, he's a nice guy. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you went to. We're on 90 minutes now.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Do you want to break and come back, or do you want to keep going?
Actually, have you eaten dinner yet?
No, I'm not. I'm on your schedule. I'm on your timetable. I'm doing whatever. If you need to eat dinner, break here. We'll call this part 1. And actually, this has to get broken down into 2 parts.
Okay. When would you? I'll make. I mean, this was thoroughly enjoyable, and it was an honor.
Yeah, we just gotta make sure we keep some kind of cadence, because what happens is you'll bring up something and I'll go in that direction, and then I'll come back, and then you'll say this, I'll go that way, and then you'll say, wait a second, where were we? That's been the way I've done things all along, and people kind of like it.
But that's what I love. That's what I love about you. I mean, I've been telling so many people to watch your podcast and your interviews, because I said it's so authentic. It's great because
it is what it is, right?
It is what it is. I love it. Yeah. When's a good day for you? When would you like to get back together?
Whenever you want.
Okay.
You just give me your schedule. We'll just go back. But when you have that window,
Okay.
When you don't have to rush home, or you just relax.
No. I like to because I'll definitely maybe next
flexible.
week. Is
Yeah,
next week sound
next
good?
week we'll take it again. Sure.
That
Okay.
sounds good. We could do it almost at the same time too if you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely.